The jaguar, a predatory species native to Central and South America and a member of the panther genus. After lions and tigers, this evolved hunter is the third largest biggest cat in the world, and the apex predator in its habitat. When Atari decided to release their new home console in 1993, they wanted a name that was cool, dynamic, and dangerous sounding. So, what better inspiration than this powerful and ferocious feline? They even put eyes on the box! Unfortunately, this particular jaguar soon became an endangered species, with the console being discontinued in 1996 after selling fewer than 150,000 units. This was in spite of some great ports of Doom and Wolfenstein 3D, the excellent and successful Alien vs Predator, and a few other noteworthy titles doing their best to keep the system afloat. We're not interested in those for now though. That's right, we're back in the mines again looking for the hidden gems from the Jaguar library that maybe don't get the respect they deserve. I'm shiny thing enthusiast Ashton from Triple Jump, and here are 10 hidden gems for the Atari Jaguar. Number 10, Protector. We'll start off with some old school retro shooting fun with this 1999 side-scroller developed by none other than Bethesda Softworks. Heavily inspired by 8-bit Atari title Drop Zone, Protector sees the player pilot a rescue ship, picking up civilians and fending off aliens. In a disturbing twist, if you fail to save the stranded humans, they'll mutate and join the enemy, leaving you with no other option to put them down where they stand. And by put them down, we obviously mean kill them, not just call them names. This all takes place on Haven 7, a planet terraformed by humans, but that is mostly undefended against alien attacks. While Earth was well protected during this assault, humanity could apparently spare only one ship to protect Haven 7, and you're the heroic soul piloting this lone Defender. Defender being another game that Protector borrows heavily from, actually. Come to think of it, there's an 8-bit Atari game that was also called Protector, with exactly the same premise. As far as we can tell, it was made by a completely different studio. Still, despite Protector for the Jaguar not exactly oozing originality, it's still a nice, action-packed shoot-'em-up with a strategic twist that offers a good alternative to the well-known Jaguar great Tempest 2000, and that's got to be worth protecting. Number 9, Attack of the Mutant Penguins. Mutant animals were big money in the 90s. Just ask the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. In 1995, a developer called Sunrise Games tried to get in on the craze with quirky action Jaguar effort, Attack of the Mutant Penguins. This madcap amalgamation of action, platform, puzzle, strategy, and tower defense elements reviewed poorly at the time. Nowadays, however, it offers a unique, extremely 90s flavoured experience for patient gamers, and is a nice collectible to boot. Telling the story of a race of nefarious aliens who disguise themselves as cute, innocent penguins, the game shares some visual similarities with ToeJam and Earl, but beats Sega's Alien Pair when it comes to bonkers gameplay. The aim of the game is ultimately to ensure that a device called the Doom Scale has more real penguins on it than evil alien penguins by the time the level's counter runs down. The means by which you achieve this goal are multi-layered and complex, but I'll try to sum it up. Players must mercilessly batter the mutant penguins as they approach the Doom Scale, while being careful not to accidentally squash allied penguins. If the mutant penguins outweigh the friendly penguins at the end, then the mission is failed, and the planet is lost. I'd like to tell you that it makes sense in the context, but it really doesn't. Just embrace the insanity. Number 8, iWar. There were quite a few 3D vehicle-based combat games for the Atari Jaguar, but iWar is the only one that takes place inside your computer. That's right, this 1995 Jaguar shoot-'em-up puts you in control of an antivirus tank and tasks you with clearing out mutated data from the iWay, which is basically the internet except run by a single powerful computer buried underneath the South Pole. The game received mixed to negative reviews upon release, but has built up a small following since then, with modern players enjoying the gameplay and unique setting. iWar's brightly coloured abstract visuals have aged better than the usual attempts at realistic landscapes from the era, resulting in a neat retro experience with a cool early techno soundtrack and fun computery voice clips. Confusingly, another unrelated game called iWar was released for the PC 2 years later, Known as Independence War in America, that iWar is a strategic space combat simulator. It attempted to recreate realistic outer space physics types things, like the inertia caused by a ship's mass and the absence of drag in a vacuum. Neither iWar was made by Apple though, which is probably for the best. Number 7. Brutal Sports Football. Initially released for the Amiga, Brutal Sports Football was actually Atari Jaguar's first third-party title, beating the likes of Doom and Wolfenstein 3D to the punch. Developed by Tech London, this fantastical take on American football hit the Jaguar in 1994 and made use of the console's power to portray large characterful sprites doing despicable things to each other, all in the name of competition. Brutal Sports Football channels the likes of Blood Bowl and Mutant League Football, and puts players in charge of a team of dangerous individuals as they take to the field in 7-a-side matches. Players can choose teams that consist of some very weird and wacky characters, including Vikings, lizard folk, rhino people, and goat people. I think I'd take a rhino person on my Brutal football team over a goat or a lizard any day, but hey, that's just me. Anyway, even if you're not very good at scoring touchdowns, you'll be glad to know that you can win the game by killing 6 of the 7 members of the opposing team instead. It's much easier to do and way more entertaining for the fans. Gotta send him home happy, right? Number 6. Skyhammer. Skyhammer is yet another 3D combat game in which you pilot some kind of futuristic war machine. Only this one has a claustrophobic nighttime city feel. Players take on the role of a junior mercenary pilot and step into the cockpit of the titular Skyhammer, a heavily armed aircraft with the power to take the fight to the enemies of your employer, megacorporation Cytox. With its Blade Runner-inspired setting, you might expect the missions to be based on corporate espionage and a global struggle for power through whatever underhanded means the participants can muster. And Skyhammer doesn't disappoint on that front. Considering the hardware, the game also does a good job of presenting an atmospheric neon metropolis, as well as providing tight gameplay and a good early example of a free roaming experience. Interestingly, it took Skyhammer a couple of tries to get a release. Despite being sent to magazines and receiving a warm critical reception in 1996, it was later cancelled when Atari discontinued the struggling Jaguar, only to finally re-emerge in the year 2000 when the Jaguar system was declared open platform. Well done, Skyhammer. It was a struggle and sometimes it seemed like it couldn't be done, but you got there. Number 5. Val d'Isère Skiing and Snowboarding. The Val d'Isère skiing resort in southeast France is about 3 miles from the Italian border. The area boasts picturesque alpine views and adventuring opportunities for hikers and bikers, and it's also quite the mecca for skiers and snowboarders, be they hobbyists or world-class athletes. Val d'Isère Skiing and Snowboarding for the Atari Jaguar presents this magnificent resort as a huge, undulating faux 3D expanse to slide across at frankly unsafe speeds. Providing an arcadey winter sports experience, Val d'Isère Skiing and Snowboarding is the sort of game that will provide quick blasts of high-speed thrills for today's time-poor gamer. With its sense of speed, digitised characters and undulating courses, it's somewhat reminiscent of a certain 90s bike racing series. Just add violence and you've got road rash on snow. Snow rash, if you will. I'm sure there's some kind of cream for that. The game actually has a lot in common with SNES skiing title Tommy Moe's Winter Extreme Skiing and Snowboarding, known in Europe as Val d'Isère Championship. This game was created by the same team and was even released in the same year, providing powder enthusiasts with an interesting opportunity to compare how each of the systems handled snow, if that's the sort of thing you're into. Number 4. Power Drive Rally. A sequel to multi-platform 1994 racer Power Drive, the 1995 Jaguar exclusive Power Drive Rally provides a neat take on a top-down racing genre that was already somewhat retro at the time. Taking place across real-world locations like England, Sweden, Kenya and Arizona, the game even features actual car manufacturers, with the likes of Fiat, Toyota, Ford and more providing licensed vehicles for players to slide around in. Offering various game modes and enjoyable multiplayer, the basic aim for the game is to keep winning races, thus earning funds to be able to enter more advanced events and keep yourself afloat financially. If you fail a race, you need to pay to retry, and if you run out of money, well, it's game over. That's the harsh reality of racing, I'm afraid. Although Power Drive Rally received a positive critical reception at the time, reviewers did note that it wasn't a huge step up from its 16-bit predecessor. Looking at things with our big futuristic brains though, we can safely say the game benefited from resisting an upgrade into the early messy 3D. What we're left with is a 2D throwback on a retro console with lovely evergreen gameplay, and I think that's something that we can all rally around. Number 3, Flip Out. A puzzle game for a system that was somewhat devoid of them, Flip Out was released for the Jaguar in 1995. As with many puzzle games of its time, Flip Out has a bonkers storyline and a wild visual style. The aim of the game is to apparently unseat a certain King Fluffy, ruler of the Cheese Planet, and to take the throne in his stead. As far as insane backstories for puzzle games go, we'd say that's a 5 out of 10? Silly, but we've definitely seen sillier. The gameplay sees players arranging tiles into specific patterns by flipping them into the air, hopefully causing them to land in the desired location by thinking a few steps ahead, and engaging in strategic, calculated, flippy antics. As you progress through the game, the levels become more complex, and numerous obstacles will present themselves, including meddlesome aliens messing with your carefully arranged tiles. While the Jaguar's competitors had plenty of iconic and addictive puzzle games for players to test their quick thinking and reflexes with, Atari's console was oddly bereft of entries in this particular genre. As such, despite being far from perfect, Flip Out is an important gem in the Jaguar's library, as it offers a unique brand of fun that you won't find anywhere else on the console. Oh, and you can squash aliens with the tiles if your timing is on point. Serves them right, I say. Number 2, Battle Morph. Released for the Atari Jaguar CD add-on in 1995, this 3D shooter was a follow-up to the early Jaguar title, Cybermorph. While Cybermorph was played by more Atari fans, thanks to its status as a pack-in title for the system, it divided critics, with many complaining of dull gameplay and basic graphics. Often compared unfavourably with Nintendo's Star Fox, which was viewed as a more visually impressive game on a technically inferior console. Cybermorph didn't prove to be the killer app Atari was hoping for. Battlemorph swooped in and took a far better bash at the genre. Developers' attention to detail took the 3D open-world shooter gameplay of the original and added more interesting visuals and enemies, as well as some much-needed variety in the missions. The game was still very similar to Star Fox, but gave players much more freedom and far fewer annoying toads. The morph in Battlemorph comes from the transforming ship the players control, which changes on the fly as the gameplay transitions to first-person tunnel sections or atmospheric underwater levels. Alas, even with all of the cool ideas behind it, Battlemorph couldn't help the Jaguar morph into a successful console. And number 1, Missile Command 3D. This one's for the gaming history enthusiasts among you. Missile Command 3D is a follow-up to the 1980s arcade classic Missile Command, famously played by John Connor in Terminator 2, and puts players in the seat of a heroic protector defending various colonies from incoming missile attacks. The 3D Missile Command mode provides some fun, arcade-style gameplay and adds features like a radar, asteroid impacts, and power-ups, as well as a story concerning a group of interstellar colonists setting in a system that's also coveted by aggressive aliens. Perhaps more interestingly for collectors though, is the fact that there are 2 more modes included. An original mode, which is basically classic Missile Command as it was in the arcades back in the early 80s, and a VR mode. This mysterious mode is meant to be played on the Jaguar's unreleased VR add-on. Played from a first-person viewpoint, players are tasked with firing laser beams at incoming missiles, defending the colonists below. The VR mode for Missile Command 3D is the only official released product with support for the unreleased Jaguar VR, and is testament to the fact that Atari had big plans for their console with claws. If only this particular Jag had more power under the bonnet, who knows where it might have taken us.